Hello learners, this is Pradeep Nayak here, CEO of Fuel Media Solutions Private Limited. I welcome you all to another exciting session about our industry, event management. Today I'm going to talk about risk management. And since risk management is a vast topic, there are a lot of aspects into it. We're going to start with types of risk. So in today's session, we're going to talk about types of risk, and then on a later session, we're going to talk about the safety norms, and then we're going to talk about risk management and control. So these are the different aspects of event risk management, and let's begin with types of risk in events. Allow me to share a small presentation. So, as I mentioned, we're going to touch upon types of risk today. So, after this session, you'll be able to get a clarity about the importance of risk management and also the different types of risk associated with the event industry. So, what is risk management? So, as the word goes, it is defined as a possibility of loss, injury, or any other adverse, unwelcome circumstances. So, we all keep talking about different. So, risk is there everywhere. Risk is not only in the event industry. Risk is there every day. When we travel, there is a lot of risk. When we ride a bike or when we drive a car, there is risk. Or when we walk down the stairs, there is a risk. Is something like it's a part and parcel of our life, but how risk in the event sector makes a difference is what we are going to evaluate here and what we're going to talk in detail. And this mostly comes from something. Risk is mostly associated with things which is uncertain. We don't know. If we know something, we will take measures to it, but something most uncertain, or it could lead to multiple problems. It could lead into accidents. It can lead to natural calamities, disasters. So risk is there everywhere. Few things which is there in our hand, few things which is not there in our hand. Yes. So it can also be measured and expressed as a probability of not being able to achieve defined goals of the event due to risk. So how risk would affect an event is, I'm sure, as I told in my previous sessions, that every event has an objective. Every event has a certain numbers, ROI, or goals to be achieved or to be reached in that event. And if there is a risk involved in it, it will kind of prohibit us from achieving those goals or defined results of that event. So let's go into detail into types of risk. So here, I will first of all categorize risks into two main categories. The first one is potential external risk, and the next one is risk linked with event operations. Now, external risk is something that is not in our hand, that is subject to, could be act of God, or could be, could be terrorism, could be natural disasters like a cyclone or typhoon, something of that kind, something which is not in your control, something which you couldn't have anticipated, or something which you couldn't have predicted. Okay, then there is something called risk linked with event operations. So this is something based on the production that we do, based on the measures that we take within the event scenario. So if there is enough measures not taken, then what are the risks linked to it? So we'll go one by one in detail. So let us first get into details of potential external risk and the types of risk that comes under potential external risk. So the first one, which I already mentioned, is stress due to natural disaster. We do a lot of events throughout the year. There isn't any, like, we don't do events as per season other than festivals, like could be, the Ganesha festival or any those events are festival based events, and I'm sure they are seasonal. But there isn't anything like we will not do events on June, July, or we will not do events in December. We do events throughout the year. And now there are a few things that we do as per climatic conditions. So we know that normally in the month of June, July, August, it is rainy. So we avoid outdoor events. So those are things. But disasters, what I'm talking about, is one simple example is the tsunami that happened in India, in the south coast, in the Bay of Bengal, I think a lot of years back. And I still have a very fresh memory of that because one of our vendors did an event at one of the five-star properties there. They had finished their 31st New Year event. They had just finished the event and they went back to room to take some rest, and they decided they will pack the equipments next day in the morning and then leave back to Bangalore. But then what happened that night, tsunami struck at that place. The entire resort was wiped out. All the equipments went into the sea. So that's what. So a few things which is not. But fortunately, what happened? The event was over. So there was not much loss to the life because people were already in the room or had left that venue. So yes, now, natural disasters can be anything, it could be earthquake, it could be hurricane, storm flood. So these things are something which is completely out of your control. When we cannot blame anybody on that. So you should always plan to do events in such locations where these things might not affect much. But yes, as I told you, earthquake can happen anywhere. So yeah, this is a risk that is due to natural disaster. So you can avoid places which are prone to earthquakes. So avoid such places. Act of violence or risk to personal safety. So act of violence can include anything. So, for example, if there is a political thing that outbreak that happens, if there is some verdict that has happened and because of which there is a huge um, people ganging up or people, hooligans forming huge groups and going on a rampage out on the streets. And unfortunately, if they are on the street where your event is happening, or if they are outside the venue where you're doing the event, so they might block the road. There is no movement of traffic going to happen. People who are coming to event might get affected. People also might get no hit. So it has happened, at times when in India there has multiple violence in terms of whatever reasons. It could be political reason. It could be a reason due to anything. I would not want to name few, but yes, as you all have seen multiple times, Section 144 has been imposed due to various reasons. So during that time, what happens is that your event might get disrupted, or it might get stopped, or it might get disrupted for temporary for a few hours till the police brings the entire law and order into control. So these are something it's called as act of violence. The other one is theft, material loss during transportation, crime of opportunity. So when we do some events at different places, so like for example, if I'm doing an event in Chennai, I'm doing an event in Hyderabad, or I could be doing something in Sri Lanka, I could be doing something in Singapore. So there could be some material that we use that we have to transport from here to that place, or it could be by road, by sea, or by air. And any damage that happens or any delay that happens due to your paperwork not being complete. So that is something I would say internal, but something that happens externally would be, for example, the ship that is carrying it, it derails, the train that is carrying it derails, or a flight which is carrying meets with an accident, or a bus. So anything, or it gets stolen. So what happens to that on the way, if there is some robbery that happens, people there could be a potential attack of the bandits or anybody who will attack those truck, and they take over all the material. Anything that can happen. So any loss or any risk that is associated in terms of transportation of material can also be treated as an external risk. Next is terrorist attack. So this has been something on top of everybody's mind when they're doing events mostly associated with government institutions or big private MNCs. The reason being, this is something which is picked up over the last 15, 20 years after the attack that happened at 26/11 and the 9/11 attack that happened, all these things. So all the hotels follow this as a very strong protocol that the venue is secured as per the measures. And bigger events for example, at times of World Cup or at times of Olympics or Commonwealth, these are most prone because of the large number of audience who participate and a good target audience which the terrorists might think of. So these events are also prone to such external risk, which is terrorist risk. Negative media coverage or negative publicity of the event. So this is not a big impact. It happens mostly, but yes, it can happen. Is for example, which has happened recently, is that you plan an event, you call a certain kind of an artist, and that artist is involved in a controversy. It could be about something that has been, I'm sure. The reason why I'm giving you this as an example, because I'm sure you would have heard about it, that we call an artist for an event and he is performing and he is involved in some kind of a Twitter comment or something that he has done. So there's already a negative publicity that is going against that artist or the performer, and that is automatically impacting your event. That reason being, for example, you are calling an artist called A. I don't want to name any artist. I called A, and is already going through a lot of negative publicity on Twitter, etc., etc., and all these things happening. And he's planning to attend, and your ticket sales, what you were expecting is 5,000 ticket sales, but it is not happening because people are scared to come to that event, that thinking there could be an attack from the mob, or could be hooligans who will be attacking for his comment that he has done. This has happened of late many times. So this is another thing. Or the artist already has a potential exposure to negative publicity. So those things might happen. It could be also about some foreign artists who are coming to India who might not be well accepted here. So those things also might work as an external risk. Changes and delays. So what happens? This is another common thing I would say happens when you keep on changing the dates of the event. You call for an artist, you do a commercial show. You keep on changing the date every second month, every third month. You keep postponing the date. So what happens is that once it happens, once in a while, it's okay. People will understand. And if it is the reason because there's elections happening, or if it is a reason because there is on any kind of natural disaster that has happened recently, so people are kind of coping up from that, or any major political things that have happened, then people will understand. But every time you keep on extending the date because without any strong reason, then that also might cause an external risk, which will prohibit you from achieving the goals of that particular event. Now, let's come to the second category, which I spoke about, which mostly is something which is in your hand, which is in your control, which can be averted by doing a proper setup of management. We will talk about how to avoid and how to take care of things on a later, a second part of our risk management. But here, I'll purely accustom you guys about different types of risk that is there. So once you get to know what are the types of risk, then we'll also talk about remedies for it, or like how we can like precautions for it, how we can avoid and make best out of it. So the first thing is poisoning or contamination of food and water. So a lot of events in India, I'm sure, is associated with food counters or a food mela or a dedicated food food area that has been there. So contamination of food. So it could be the water supply that is coming there could be contaminated due to any kind of leakage that has happened, or it could be the bottles in which the food or water has been carried are already been contaminated. This can also lead to a very strong impact on the event in terms of like people getting sick and then they boycotting the event. If it's a 2-3 day event, they might not turn up on the second day because of the problem that they have faced. Or it could be also due to if there is some kind of a gas leak or something that has happened in that area from the food area, and that causes a lot of problem to the audience. It could be, for example, if there is aero show happening, or if there is a big defense show happening, aero show. So there is like there could be anything that can happen there in terms of your food and safety that, or could be the air that you breathe. Some people are not prone to like they're not accustomed to outdoor events or strong noises that are going to come. So the best way is to maintain packaged food and water at event areas, and also check the quality of the food and water that has been served in those areas. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about remedies at a later stage, but yes, right now I'm going to talk about what are the types. Financial risk due to low ticket sale, lack of sponsorship, over expenditure. As I mentioned, we're going to now talk about risks that are related to our event operations. So here, what happens is that we anticipate. So if we are planning a very big show, and it is for like 1,000 tickets to be sold, and we have a target of achieving, for example, the total revenue of the event is 1 CR, and we say that 50 lakhs will be achieved through sponsorship, 50 lakhs will be achieved through ticket sales, etc., etc. This is what we target. But if we didn't market it well, if we didn't sell it well, and we're not able to get that, that also could lead to a certain risk, or as in the beginning I told, it will prohibit you from achieving the objective of the event. So what happens is that your event will have certain operational expenses. So if you, when you're closer to the event, you know how many tickets you've sold and how much sponsorship you've generated. In case you're running short of money, so you might have to trim down on the cost in terms of execution. So that might not give the desired effect that you anticipated that you wanted to give it to the audience. So this is financial risk, and also it might you would have thought that out of this event will make a profit of 30-40 lakhs for the amount of effort that we put over a period of 3 to 6 months. But if you've not done your sales well, that might also impact your cash reserves. And you might also have to pull up some money from your own pockets to make sure the event is executed to justify to the other people who have taken the tickets or who are a part of that event. Now, the next one is risk related to crowd, loss of life, injury due to accidents, stampede. So these kind of events happen in a public event where in a registered event, it is very, I would say it is quite negligible to happen. But in an event where it is open to public, these incidents are prone to happen, or have happened, I would say, or every 10 events, at least 1 or 2 events have experienced this, where crowd goes out of control, probably because of the celebrities who drop in there, or probably because of the huge demand at the event that is going to happen. So many such events are could be the the Ganesha festival pandals that happen in Bombay, or it could be in anywhere in Bangalore or Delhi, anything such event which is of public importance, or the Ram Lila Madan event that happens. So a lot of people come there, a lot of stampede happens. So these things have to be taken care of. It has to be planned well. Even events such as like Kumbh Mela and all, where lakhs and lakhs of people attend, the snake boat race that happens in Kerala. So thousands and lakhs and people who turn out, where you don't really, it is in thousands, but you don't know the exact number. You don't know who's going to come how. So it's all about how you manage the complete flow of the crowd there is what matters in places like this. And this can also lead to stampede, or if there is some emergency that is happening, it is difficult to evacuate people from there. So yeah, so this is something, a risk that is caused due to crowd or loss of injury. Risk to surrounding and facilities like fire, electric, gas supply, stage pirating. Now every event has different, as I told you, there are 1,000 or 10,000 items that has been put together to make an event very successful, or to give you the experience that you have expected. So there are things like a stage show might have some pyro. What is pyro? Pyro is a firework related acts. So if it is not taken care well, if it is not done well, so there could be one of the events in Mumbai had that, like it was a government event and the stage caught fire, and a lot of celebrities were sitting in the first row. So that was quite a big mishap that happened. So yeah, things can go wrong. Not definitely in your control, but yeah, it could have been averted if you have taken proper fire and safety protocol. If you have followed the safety measures, and there is some SOPs that we have to do in terms of fire and safety. That is one. And other things could be the electrical things, short circuits that can happen. Again, those things also can be averted by having good cabling, having good electrical company who will do the cabling in a proper way. No looping of wires in between with loose connections and all those things. Yeah, all these things. And stage safety could be in terms of pyro, or it could be in terms of the trussing that you do. So all these things. So this also is this is something I would say is a nightmare of a production person, or a person who's involved in operation. It is one of the it is their more outmost duty to ensure safety in all aspects of the stage. Could be from fire safety, electrical connections, or gas supply, anything that is required for that event. It also could be, we use the smoke machines or the smog machines. So the kind of liquid that you load onto those machines and that what they emit, if it is going to be poisonous, and there could be some artist or somebody who is on the stage might faint because of it. So yes, these are the risks that is surrounding to the facilities. Next is the collapse of the communication systems. So what happens is the collapse of a communication system. When we talk about it, is it's for example, on a bigger event, you have at least 30, 40, 50 people who are managing the event in different areas. Somebody at the backstage, somebody at the front stage, somebody at the audience, somebody at the console, some people at the security, some people at the gates. So there are different set of people working across the venue, and these people are all communicating through walkie-talkies or different modes of communication that they adapt to that particular event or venue. So, or it could be the communication amongst the volunteers and everybody. So there are two types. One is the active communication, which you're doing with your crew members and everything for the smooth functioning of event. Other one is a passive communication. Passive communication is, for example, you should also have in a venue which you're doing a very big show. You should have proper communication where the restrooms are, where the safety exits are, where the fire exit is, where the entry to the venue is, where the exit is, where is the emergency exit, everything. So bigger venues, I would say in terms of five-star property and everything, those layered plans have already been printed and they're at the entrance, so people tend to notice it or look at it. Or in some of the events, what we do is we print and hand out and give it to them in their docket or the handbag, so that they know at times of emergency where is the exit, where is the restrooms, etc., etc. All the information is given. So that is passive communication and active communication. So any failure in this communication systems will also cause risk to the event. Financial loss in terms of over expenditure, penalties, and litigation. That's another type of risk. So over expenditure happens is that if you don't So whenever we do costing, you always have to work with a 5 to 10% buffer. It depends if you're working on a long-term project. If you're working something which is 6 months or a year down the lane, there could be some changes in policies, or there could be certain inflation that is going to happen. So your transport might increase, or probably you would have anticipated current rate for flight bookings, but when you're booking, the things might change. So yeah, all these things, it could shoot up. So always keep that buffer so that you don't come into that risk of over expenditure. Second thing is penalties and litigations. Yeah, this might happen probably in terms of transportation. The venue that you selected has some problem that has happened, or it's an open venue. You might have to spend a lot more on government permissions, litigations, because you wouldn't have, for example, if you didn't follow proper protocol of doing securing the venue or doing the underground cabling, etc., then there are some fines from the department. So these are the another risk which can begin. This also comes under the purview of the production or the operation guy in terms of taking care of penalties and litigations. So these are different types of risk that is related to event operations. The other one we're going to talk about is legal risk. Now, legal risk can happen probably with your vendors because they had a certain contract that you're following with them, and there is a legal risk could also be in terms of securing the venue. There's certain paperwork that you have to be done, but you don't have done. The legal risk could also be about obtaining licenses. So we have multiple licenses. You know, when we do event, from liquor license to Novex, PPL, etc., which is for playing the music. Then when you're doing events in Mumbai, you have to take from the power company, and then you have to, in case you're using generator, then you have to take license. You have to also take permission and license from the fire department. So multiple levels of licenses that we have to take, and if not, then we will also get ourselves, one is risking our audience and our company, and at the same time putting ourselves under a big legal hassle that we might have to face. So yes, legal risk also forms a very important part of the risk related to event operations. Risk related to intake of alcohol and drugs. This has happened in a lot of events where, by default, like there are a lot of events, like what could be some one of big concerts have liquor partners on board, and I'm sure liquor is served because people above the age of 21 or 25 are allowed in that event. But what happens is that some people might go a little overboard in terms of consumption of alcohol, or that could be certain leakage wherein people would have carried some drugs along with them, and they go on to overdose of drugs or overconsumption of alcohol, and then they start becoming a problem or a nuisance at the venue to other audience who are enjoying the show or enjoying the event. So this also could be another risk. So proper measures have to be taken care. I'm sure when we're doing an event for 5, 10, 20,000 people, we'll not be able to keep an eye on each and every person. Then in that case, we would need 10,000 security people. But then there are proper security and measures have to be put so that we maintain the decorum of the event, and also be able to control the event and have a smooth functioning without causing any damage or any kind of nuisance to the other audience. In our next session, we will discuss in detail in terms of remedies or the safety norms that we can take up to overcome this kind of risk. But I'm sure when we discussed about this type of risk, you would have already come up with your own ideas as to how I can safeguard that area, how can I safeguard the stage area. So as I began this session, there were two main categories, as I told: potential external risk and risk related to event operations. External risk is definitely not in our hand. Terrorist attack, or it could be natural disasters. Those things are completely unpredictable. This is definitely not in our hands. But event risk related to event operations is totally in our hand, and it is the main, I would say, the not I would say the responsibility of the event operations team to do a proper recce, do a proper evaluation of the event before taking it up, and plan things accordingly. With this, I hope this session has given you more clarity on types of risk. We'll talk about the safety norms and things required under risk management in our next session. Thank you all. Have a great day.